All right, hello everybody. I am Robert Parker, one of the admins here at Movie Battleground, and welcome back. We have an awesome match set up for you today. Two gargantuan, awesome competitors. It's going to be a great battle. I cannot wait for you guys to see all the questions we have lined up for you tonight. Just a quick intro to our competitors. We got Henry Confidential and Drake Froemsdorf. I'm going to just skip right through that.
Froemsdorf.
Froemsdorf.
Hey,
yeah, sure was. I should have asked you that before we started. Drake Froemsdorf. So this is really going to be a great match tonight. I'm really looking forward to it. For everybody watching who doesn't know exactly how this works, this is a movie debate show. I'm going to be judging you tonight, so I have all of my notes written here. Just make sure that you know that I am going to be grading and judging not only off of how you defend your own answer, but also based on how you attack the other person. So it's not just about how strong your own argument is for your movie or your pick, it's also how much you attack the other person. So those are the two things I'm going to be judging on. And without any further ado, if you guys don't have any questions, we can get going right away.
Let's do this. We're on a tight schedule and we're going to have some fun.
Sweet. Alrighty, so question one, we're going to be doing our opening arguments, and then each of you guys are going to have just a 6-minute open forum in between to talk and argue it out, and then we're going to have closing arguments, and we'll wrap it up. I will be keeping track of time. And as we go into our first question here, which is question one, what is the best Aaron Sorkin screenplay? What is the best Aaron Sorkin screenplay? Henry, I think we're going to start with you. You have an opening argument. Whenever you're ready, go ahead, and I'll be keeping time.
So not only is the movie I chose the best screenplay, it's also the best movie out of any movie that he's written. And I went with The Social Network. It's a movie about Facebook that not only got you intrigued in the concept, it's relevant to everybody. It's going to be relevant for years to come, so it's always going to hold up. Some of his prior screenplays are about, material and situations that aren't necessarily going to hold up in the future. So it's one of those that is really intriguing. It encapsulates you in the situation and the lifestyle of an entrepreneur rising to power and the backstabbing and all the backstory of everything that happened. Coming about to that. And it's very interesting. And it turns what would be on paper a pretty boring story into a very thrilling and encapsulating story. So screenplay aside, bam, Social Network.
Alrighty, a strong pick right out of the gate. And Drake, we're going to go over to you. Drake Froemsdorf, I just have to say that again. Go ahead with your opening argument.
All right, for best Aaron Sorkin screenplay, I picked Moneyball. Moneyball is kind of like Henry said, it's a true story. There's a lot of statistics and boring things that Aaron Sorkin makes interesting. In Moneyball, you got Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill, Chris Pratt. A lot of good witty dialogue between the characters. There's a lot of there's a trade scene between Pitt and Jonah Hill, and they're going back and forth, and I thought that was some good dialogue. Overall, Moneyball for Aaron Sorkin's screenplays is on the lower half of it, but I think it's one of his better ones, especially over Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was boring as shit.
Yeah, I'm glad we'd have to argue that because that would have just made this argument boring.
Alrighty, so strong opening. Oh, you have more to say for your opening?
No, I was just going to say that was it for my opening.
Awesome. So definitely strong picks. Arguably the two best Aaron Sorkin screenplays. He does have a lot of them, but arguably the two best here going head to head. You guys are going to have 6 minutes of an open forum. Make sure you guys both get enough points in, both for your pick against the other person's. Whenever you'd like to start, the time is yours.
So The Social Network is a better screenplay because the story, it is full circle. It gives you a lot of Facebook. It gives you a lot of the college lifestyle building up to it. And it's not necessarily true to the real story. And that's why the screenplay itself is so great because it wasn't afraid to veer away from the actual real life aspect and the more true story parts of it. And it wasn't afraid to rewrite Zuckerberg to be a more encapsulating character, more interesting character. And he's a dickhead for most of the movie. And we're intrigued by him. And not only because of the performance, but because of how he was written, because the character itself, the lines he delivered, they were interesting and they were actually kind of appealing from a guy who's not supposed to be appealing, a nerd, and is written so well. And I think that with that, and then with Moneyball, it's a baseball movie with no baseball in it. So in a movie like that, you need a lot of interesting characters. And aside from Jonah Hill and Brad Pitt, none of the characters are interesting. So I don't think it's as good.
I'll disagree a little bit right there. I think Philip Seymour Hoffman as the A's manager has a good performance. like I said, Chris Pratt's in there too. But with the Social Network, that was actually my first pick, and then you obviously had it. So, but I just think what you said, it's a baseball movie with no baseball. That's what makes it even more interesting. The way he goes around it without baseball. There's a streak that they have 20 consecutive wins, and that's a really well edited scene. And I think it's about like 7 or 8 minutes long. But
I think Moneyball is more like you just said right there. It was a well edited thing. I think the actual written part of it, the script wise, it's not as done as well. They got lucky that Bennett Miller did a really good job with that movie. It was really well edited, and it was really well performed. Like you said with Philip Seymour Hoffman, if it wasn't Philip Seymour Hoffman, that character would have been very uninteresting, and you wouldn't have cared about him. He was fearing for his job. He was being a jerk. So Philip Seymour Hoffman's the only reason that character was sold as an interesting character. Where you have characters like Justin Timberlake, who's not a good actor by any means, but he killed it in that role. Because of the character. The character was written so well that regardless of who was performing, he did really well. You had Brenda Song, a Disney Channel girl, and her character was so interesting, and how she's the crazy girlfriend, and how just more influence for Mark Zuckerberg to become his own person. And then you have Andrew Garfield. It's a rise to power, and arguably that's the reason, because he finally was given some material to work with and to finally come into his own as an actor. Same thing with Jesse Eisenberg. Without that script, I don't think that his performance would have worked, because he would have just done like what he did with Batman vs Superman, a bad script. He's proven that he's not necessarily a great actor. So such a great script. Bam, he killed it.
I think more of that's on Fincher getting the performances out of all those actors, especially like Brenda Song. Like, she had a great performance, and like you said, a Disney Channel actor. I think that's more on David Fincher than Aaron Sorkin and the screenplay.
There's been plenty of movies where you have good directors and bad screenplays, and you don't get a good movie. It's a combination. It's well directed, obviously. That's why I'm not going to argue that. But the screenplay was so great that the characters were given the lines, because that's where the lines come from, is the screenplay. So maybe Fincher can get them to portray them a little better. But the lines were so great themselves that you're encapsulated by a story about Facebook. And like I said, it's going to hold up for years to come. It was nominated for Best Picture. So I mean, just the dialogue, everything about it, the movie was great. And it's because of the foundation of the script.
And then with Moneyball, I think coming off your point kind of makes a movie about statistics and money for baseball interesting. Like, it's the first movie that Jonah Hill kind of broke out of his kind of not being a comedic actor, his first big dramatic role. And then after that, he went with Leo DiCaprio, and he's just stepping on up. This was his first movie to catapult him, and you could say Aaron Sorkin had a bit to play in kind of, I guess, the rise of this new.
Well, with that being said, I think the Moneyball script was dumbed down, because you have scenes like when they're trying to talk about a player, they lose a player who's batting three in the 300s with 40 home runs. So they just dumb it down. They're like, all right, so now you just need three players to add up to that, and it takes away from, it dumbs it down, like a lot of movies. And I feel like it's a weaker screenplay. And in Social Network, they weren't afraid to actually talk about data and the behind the scene computer stuff, and nerding out a little bit, because it was so strong that they weren't afraid to nerd out and still be appealing to a vast audience. Whereas Moneyball, if you're not a huge baseball fan, you're not going to care about that movie as much, because it's going to be boring. Or if you don't like statistics, it's not directed as well enough to really have that screenplay stand out. And the combination of the screenplay and the directing for Social Network makes that a more appealing movie. So when you actually dive into the screenplay and study it and pay attention, you realize, wow, this is beautifully written, beautifully acted. The characters come to life because of how well that they were written, and the dialogue, it's back and forth, it's banter, it's pretty intense for a Facebook movie. For a strict drama, that's pretty amazing.
That's really all I got, man.
You have 30 seconds left. We can call it early if you want. You guys both think you got enough what you want.
Yeah, I just also throw in the relationships in Moneyball, just with his daughter and with GM and the older player. I think there's like a 37-year-old player he has a conversation with, just the different relationships he has.
All right, in time there. All right, so Henry, you started this one, right? An opening argument?
Yes.
All right, so you're going to start for closing as well. Just keep in mind for both of you that closing arguments are a time to sum up your points in the most succinct way possible. Make sure you guys are focusing on the question of the best screenplay. And Henry, whenever you're ready.
So I want to touch on real quick that you threw out the daughter, and that kind of, it wasn't written very well. So you didn't really care about them, if other than the fact that it's a father-daughter relationship that, just kind of like a puppy scene. It's going to be appealing to most people and going to get the emotions out there, but it wasn't written very well. She wasn't very drawn out. It didn't bring in that weight to really give him enough motivation and character drive to stay with the team or move to another team towards the end when that happened, when the contract was up. Same thing with his ex-wife. It didn't really have that weight and that tension that you would want from that and really, affect him personally like it would. And the same thing with Billy Bean as a kid. That didn't really touch on that enough to really feel for him why he's doing this. It's more of like he seemed more like an arrogant baseball mind more than a driven, motivated, like I want to redeem myself. So it's kind of weak on that end. And then with the Social Network, it covered everything. It bring out the performances because of how well they were written. It made a boring subject interesting, and it's definitely more rewatchable. Social Network over Moneyball, screenplay wise.
Alrighty, a solid closing there from Henry. And Drake, back over to you to sum up whenever you like.
I think we got a lot of similarities, or the movies have a lot of similarities. Statistics and behind-the-scenes stuff of something phenomenon. Like the A's went on a 20-game win streak and built Moneyball, and then obviously Facebook. So they're very similar. Just comes down to the screenplay, and the only thing I can really say is I think there's better characters because they're written better in Moneyball than in Social Network. And I think I know you touched on the director, but I think a lot of the greatness of the Social Network has to do with David Fincher, not necessarily Aaron Sorkin. But I do see what you're saying.
All right, we're going to call it there. So this was a pretty good fight. Like I said at the beginning, arguably two of the best Aaron Sorkin screenplays for sure. I think you guys both got a lot of good points in to support your own arguments. Both of you guys were talking about the characters and the performances that were brought in by both the director and the screenplay. I think for this one, I'm leaning slightly towards Henry. The biggest reason is when he was talking about the performances and the direction. He was talking about how both of those things were lifted up and propelled by the screenplay. Drake, you were talking a lot about the great performances, Philip Seymour Hoffman and Jonah Hill breaking out into the role and how it was well edited and all these things. But I think Henry focused a little bit more on why the screenplay boosted the rest of the movie up. So I'm leaning just a little bit towards Henry on this one. So Henry's going to take the lead 1-0. As we hop into the second question. All right, you guys. Drake, you're going to start this one off.
Sorry, Moneyball is one of my favorite movies. I forgot I was muted. Moneyball is one of my favorite movies. And so, and Social Network's like number 5 Fincher for me. So I just knew it was an easier way to argue. So good fight.
Yes, definitely a good fight. Great start. I can't wait to see what the rest of the night holds for these questions here. We're going to hop right into question 2, which is, what is the worst movie starring Adam Sandler? Now, contrary to popular belief, there are a lot of bad Adam Sandler movies. Really? What? So we're going to start with Drake on this one. Go ahead with your opening argument.
All right. I picked a more recent film, shockingly. Pixels. I think it's directed by Chris Columbus, I believe. There's Kevin James, Peter Dinklage, and Josh Gad. Oh my goodness, this movie is so bad. They're aliens and they come down in video game form, and the only person who can stop them is Adam Sandler. I'll get more into the plot and whatnot, but that's my opening right there.
Sure, for sure. Definitely a pick that should be in contention for worst Sandler movie, for sure. Without a doubt. Over to Henry for your opening argument.
So I went there's a concept in comedy movies where you have an actor playing multiple characters, or at least more than one character, and for the most part it works. Big Mama's House, Dr. Strangelove, or How I Love Just to Dr. Strangelove. Yeah, exactly. Dr. Strangelove and movies like that where they're able to pull it off, but then you have some bad ones like Norbit and like the movie that I'm talking about now, and that's Jack and Jill. Adam Sandler is not a good actor, so he's not able to pull off being the two roles, and it's dirty, it's grotesque, it's degrading to women, you know, the way he portrays a woman. And you have, you know, actors in there who you can tell they're mailing it in, and this one's arguably one of the worst movies of all time, and there's no redeeming qualities to it. Where Pixels, it could be fun, and if you turn off your brain and maybe have a little drinks inside of you. So Jack and Jill.
Alrighty, definitely great points brought out by both of you. We're going to have a 5-minute open forum session, so whenever you guys start talking, I will start the clock.
I'll let you start off.
Okay. Jack and Jill, obviously the most popular pick. I've never seen Jack and Jill, so I don't have as big an advantage as you might. Have you seen Pixels?
Yeah.
Henry? Okay.
Unfortunately.
I saw Pixels, and I saw it in theaters. I was actually, even though it was Adam Sandler in the lead, I was actually kind of excited to see it. The trailers didn't look terrible, and it was Kevin James plays the president. He's breakdancing in some scenes. Adam Sandler just walks into a very high security meeting in what would be a Geek Squad outfit. It's just so dumb and silly, and they completely waste Peter Dinklage, and it's the worst performance Josh Gad has ever given or done. It's just, there's a lot of cringeworthy moments, and the line in the trailer and in the movie where he said Pac-Man's a bad guy. Well, it's just silly because they're in the ghost cars and Pac-Man eats the ghost. You know he's the bad guy. It's just very dumb dialogue and just dumb Adam Sandler movie. Pissed me off.
Alrighty, well, you have, like you said, you have Christopher Columbus at the helm of this movie, so you know that there's going to be elements where it's directed decently. You know, they might not have taken it serious as far as, you know, Oscar wise or the best quality, but you can tell that there's going to be redeeming qualities. You have the nostalgia factor of, you know, like the Pac-Man and all the other video game characters. You have pretty good visuals. It doesn't look terrible. It had a nice budget to it, so they actually was able to do pretty good. And it's a comedy movie, so you don't expect the CGI to be mind-blowing, but it actually had some redeeming qualities. And like I said, if you have some drinks, you can have some fun, get some nostalgia, you can have fun with Peter Dinklage just running around, just being silly, knowing that they know what movie that they're in. Whereas Jack and Jill, I think that there's one of two ways that you could perceive this movie, that they took it seriously and it's just super disrespectful to women and just anyone involved in the audience watching it, or they knew what they were involved and they just did such a terrible job, because you can't do a movie like that and you know, it's just bad. My movie has a lower Rotten Tomatoes score, both audience and critics, and it has a lower IMDb score. So all that, you know, widely, it is a lower ranked movie, and my movie also made less money. So it showed that people actually wanted to see Pixels, and word of mouth got out there that it wasn't good, but people still went to go see it because it's an Adam Sandler movie. It's an action movie. It's a fun nostalgia movie. Where Jack and Jill, there, you know, you got nothing going on. There's no redeeming qualities. It's just a very generic storyline, you know, Big Mama's house, and it just doesn't work. So it's not funny. Your movie at least have some fun action and, you know, some decent visuals, where mine's not funny. It's an abomination.
Well, at least in Jack and Jill, you got Al Pacino as somebody as gracious as Al Pacino. You know, that adds on to my abomination. Even that performance, it made his career prove that his career was so bad because he's in that movie. And what have we seen Al Pacino since? And it's because of he sunk so low that he was in that movie that it probably ruined his career for you know, you have Robert De Niro, who at least had like Dirty Grandpa with Zac Efron. You know, he's proven that he can still hold up in these days. But Al Pacino, he did a movie like that? No way. You're not going to give him a job because it ruined it. It's obviously not going to be an Adam Sandler career buster, because Adam Sandler is going to make money no matter what, because if you live in places like where I live, everyone's going to love Adam Sandler. And like I said, this movie made money, but it's because of the Adam Sandler movie, not because it's actually a good movie. Where yours actually made a lot of money. That's an impressive, you know, it made it was on a budget of $88 million and it made $244 million worldwide. So that's pretty impressive for any movie, let alone an Adam Sandler movie, let alone a comedy movie. So you made some money. There's some enjoyable parts of it, and
Jack and Jill, like I said, it's just abomination. I don't really have much to say because I don't want to talk about it. I hate it so much. And like you said, you actually saw Pixels in the theaters because it looks intriguing. The premise alone makes you want to watch it, even if it's to make fun of it, like Last Airbender or The Happening or something. Where Jack and Jill, you can't even sit through that movie because it's not even room good. Where it's so bad it's good. It's just terrible. Like it's disrespectful to the audience, to the actors, to women. Like I said, portraying like it's not. There's nothing redeeming about it.
30 seconds left.
30 seconds. In Pixels, I think there were more expectations. I know we're talking about the better movie, but kind of sucks when you go in with better expectations. I don't know what you expect going into a movie where Adam Sandler is playing his twin sister as a girl. Like, if you're going to take the time to sit down and watch Jack and Jill, I guess there's your first problem. But just expectations with Pixels were much higher than Jack and Jill. Was all
right, that's time there. We're going to go to Drake first for a closing argument. Just make sure you sum everything up. Get a few more points in. Keep in mind that we're going worst movie starring Adam Sandler. Go ahead, Drake.
All right. With Jack and Jill, I mean, there are redeeming qualities. There's a lot of product placement that is so over the top that it's funny to me, I think, between like Diet Coke or Dunkin' Donuts or Pepto-Bismol or whatever it is. I mean, there's just a lot of fun things. And Pixels is just, you keep talking about there's redeeming qualities in Pixels. They just took it is a cool premise and just completely shat on it. And Kevin James, I know I said Josh Gad gives his worst performance. I think Kevin James also gives his worst performance. It just doesn't make any sense what they're doing because they use the guns that the Army could use, but since they're good at video games, it really doesn't make any sense. I wish Jack and Jill there's a through and through kind of plot that they have, and Pixels it's just kind of all over the place.
Alrighty, a strong closing there from Jake, and over to Henry.
So Jack and Jill, like I said, it's grotesque. You have a woman character who's dumb. She's gross. It's disrespectful to women. It's not fun. It's not appealing to a woman audience because they're like, oh, that doesn't represent us well. It's not appealing to a male audience because they're like, oh, I don't want to see women like that. Or on the same end, they're like, I don't want to see women treated like that, and I don't want people to think that I agree with that. So just audience wise, it just doesn't do it, and it's not funny. And it has the product placement. It's so over the top, but yeah, it's not funny. You don't be like, oh, you have good ones like Krispy Kreme donuts and Power Ranger, and they still talk stuff about it. So people don't like product placement. So the fact that it's so over the top, it's not even ironically funny. And then Pixels, like I said, it has pretty good visuals. They know what they were doing. Adam Sandler's career at this point is to just have fun and have vacations. And he was like, all right, we're not going to do a vacation this time. Let's nostalgia it up. Let's play some video games. Let's shoot some guns. Let's kill some characters. As a matter of fact, let's make Kevin James the president of the United States. Come on. They knew what they were getting into. They knew what they were doing. They had a lot of fun and they made money. So honestly, if you say there's expectations going in, and that's on you going into an Adam Sandler movie with expectations, anybody, honestly, but expectations were passed because it made almost 3 times its budget. So that expectations were passed, and people weren't let down. Like I said, it had like a 46 on Rotten Tomatoes. So I mean, it's not even, or 36, like 30 or 40. It had a decent score for the audience wise. People liked it. Like there's redeeming qualities. It's fun. You can put it on the background and just have some fun with your friends. Where Jack and Jill, that's a Netflix and chill type of movie to where it makes you want to turn it off and focus on the girl, not the movie. Whereas Pixels, you can actually have a little bit of fun.
All right, a strong closing there from Henry. There were a lot of facts and numbers thrown out about box office and tomato meter and all this kind of stuff. I'm just going to clear some of that up right away. So most of what Henry was saying is correct as far as reviews and things like that. Jack and Jill has a critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes of 3%, whereas Pixels is at a 17. For audiences, Jack and Jill's at 36, and Pixels is at a 46. And then on IMDb, Jack and Jill is sitting at a 3.4, while Pixels is at a 5.6. And then box office, domestic gross, and those kind of things were all brought up. Pixels did have a production budget of $88 million. Domestically, it only made $78 million, but once you did go worldwide, it did end up with around $245 million. So it did make some money worldwide. worldwide, but it lost money domestically, whereas Jack and Jill had a budget of 79 million, domestically made 74, and worldwide made 150 about. So both of them, when it comes to a worldwide audience, definitely did make some money, but both of them domestically did lose money. So just to kind of fact check, clear that up a little bit. As for the actual arguments, this one was really interesting. I think Drake definitely came out strong in his opening, talking about the terrible performances, like a wasted Peter Dinklage, a terrible Josh Gad performance, a silly Kevin James performance. You know, I think Jake did have some good arguments about how it was cringeworthy. You know, the example of Adam Sandler in a security meeting, there's just bad dialogue. And then Henry came back. He had a lot of great points as well, how it's just completely disrespectful. It's not fun. It's not appealing to any audiences. It's not funny. It was a wasted Al Pacino performance. This one, I think Drake had a little bit of a personal vendetta against Pixels when he said, "Oh, it just pissed me off." And he did admit that he hadn't seen Jack and Jill, which I think did hurt him in his argument. You did have a couple good hits once again about the Al Pacino. The product placement was a little bit funny. It's kind of feasible, but I think Henry really, really hit you on how it made money. It's intriguing. It's enjoyable. It has good visuals. It has Chris Columbus as a director. It does have somewhat of a vision. So this one I'm going to give over to Henry, but that was definitely a good fight.
I will admit I've seen neither. I lied because I didn't want you to.
Oh, me too.
I've
definitely
neither.
seen Jack and Jill.
Oh,
No.
I definitely saw Pixels in theaters.
I own Pixels, but yeah, I was like, I'm not gonna watch it yet.
Yeah.
Just because where I'm from, I have to have an Adam Sandler collection. But yeah, I haven't seen either, so that was interesting. Good fight. That
was very
the
good
dumb
fight.
ones are fun.
Yeah, that was closer. Yeah.
All right, the next one is a really interesting one in my opinion. It might not make sense right off the bat. I know you guys definitely didn't get it right away, but this is one of my favorite questions that I've ever written. And this is, what movie character would you most want to watch their own movie with? So you imagine that there's a movie character in real life sitting on the couch next to you. You're going to put in their movie. What movie and what character do you choose? We're starting off with Henry.
All right. So when you think about a movie where you watch it with a character, you want them to be fun, you want them to be funny, you want them to be invested in their character, you want them to be over the top, but not too over the top. Excuse me, to where it's like, weird and embarrassing. More like, like I said, invested. They're in their character. They're boom. So I chose Kirk Lazarus, Robert Downey Jr., and Tropic Thunder because he's a dude playing a dude dressed up as another dude. He doesn't drop character until the DVD commentary. He knows what he's signing up for. He probably has already actually done this 4 or 5 times in his life, watching movies with fans, his own movie, watching himself, because he's a method actor, and he wants to take notes, and he just wants to show Ben Stiller that he's not as good, and he's not you may make me happy. So yeah, you don't have none of that. So he shows that he's a good actor. He's an Academy of nominated actor in the movie, and based on that performance in real life. So if I'm watching it with Robert Downey Jr., I have that. And if I'm watching it with Kirk Lazarus, I have that. So it's going to be a lot more fun. And I'm going to learn some stuff.
Sure. So you are watching it with the character, not with the actor. Obviously, the actor is there playing the character, but you're watching it with the character.
So Kirk Lazarus.
Drake, yes, correct. So Drake, go ahead with your opening argument.
All right, I picked a kind of messed up one, but that's what makes it fun. Tyler Durden from Fight Club, played by Brad Pitt. I think it would be pretty interesting to sit down next to Tyler Durden and watch Fight Club, which, technically is also the narrator. So you're watching a guy in an alter ego just go into madness, just be a complete badass. And it's all in his head. And I would just really like to just sit by Tyler and talk to him and just see what's going through his mind, because he has a lot of philosophy on consumerism and all this really cool stuff in Fight Club that makes a lot of sense, especially during today in 2017. This was made 18 years ago, but I think sitting down with Tyler Durden would be really interesting.
All right, definitely two extremely strong picks here. This is going to be a great fight, I can already tell. You guys have 5 minutes of open forum, starting whenever you start talking.
So the reason sitting down with Tyler Durden's not going to work is because you're actually going to be sitting down with the narrator, because Tyler Durden is a figment of his imagination. He can only see Tyler Durden. So when you're sitting with Tyler Durden, you're actually sitting with Edward Norton, the narrator, as Tyler Durden. So that's going to be less appealing, because the reason that Brad Pitt was that character was because he's got the machismo. He's beautiful. He's what you want to look like and what you want to be like. But because that's in Edward Norton's character's head, you're only going to be with Edward Norton. So you're not going to have that aspect to it, and it's not going to be as appealing. So when you're watching the movie with the character, he might zone out, and he might start flipping out and get weird, or he's going to get talk about anarchism and terrorism, and it's going to be kind of weird and scary. Whereas you have Kirk Lazarus, he's self-centered and he's over the top, but he's going to give you insight on acting. He's going to give you, he can give you tips on acting. He can give you some insight on why he did the performance like that, why he did it like that, because it's like he's breaking the fourth wall. He's going to know he's in a movie because he's a dude playing another dude, so he's not afraid to be self-aware of what he's in. Whereas Tyler Durden, you're not even talking to the real Tyler Durden. You're talking to the narrator as Tyler Durden. That's not as interesting. So it's not as cool and it's not as suave. You're not going to get any notes on how to pick up women talking to the narrator, whereas I'm going to get notes on how to act talking to Kirk Lazarus.
Okay.
Yeah, like you didn't think of that, did you?
Yeah, you didn't
think of that, did you?
It, but they're the same person, so it's kind of that. I don't know. It's kind of teeter-totter. But
you didn't think of that, buddy. I got you.
Yeah, no, I did think of that, Henry. I did think of that. I don't know. I think just sitting down, getting crazy with him, and even if it is the narrator, I think for the sake of the argument, I'm just going to keep it for Tyler Durden, just for the sake of argument, because you're pretty much sitting down with somebody's alter ego, and I mean, I think sometimes we all think like we got a devil or an angel on our shoulder, and that's pretty much the devil for the narrator is Tyler Durden, and he actually makes a lot of good points in the movie. And to go to an actual fight club, how cool would that be? I'd probably get my ass kicked, but he could probably arrange that and set that up. But,
so I'll give you this. If you actually are talking to Tyler Durden, that means you're talking to him. So that means he's zoning out. And there's going to be times where you have Edward Norton's character handing a beer bottle. As when you get back to the later of the movie, he's dropping the beer bottle because he thinks he's talking to him, or he's punching himself in the face. He's zoning out. It's like you have a third person, but you're going to be weirded out because you're not going to realize that it clicked in his head that, oh, he's a new person. So you're going to get kind of freaked out. And if you have Tyler Durden talk about all this cool stuff, anarchism and terrorism and burning yourself, with the acid on your hand, he's going to try and get you into his club, and he's going to try and fight you. And remember, you have to fight on the first day of Fight Club. That's one of the rules. So you're going to get really in a terrible situation. You're not going to have fun. You might be invested in the Fight Club life, and you might be into that sick stuff, but if you're only getting the one day, I wouldn't want to waste one day getting beat up, burned on your hand, or having a guy just talk to himself and not really talking to you. And that's just not going to be a lot of fun. Where you have Kirk Lazarus, even if he is talking to himself, he's talking to himself as another person. He knows it. Whereas your character, he doesn't realize that he's doing it as another person because it's all in his head. Whereas Kirk Lazarus, he's just so method acting, he's so insane in a normal way that it's interesting. It's like a one-man play. Whereas yours is a cuckoo show for real.
And that's what kind of makes it fun. Or if I see what you're saying even more, then I could just have my alter ego just go sit down with Tyler, and I could hang with the narrator, and then we could watch them just go crazy together. That would be fun.
I don't know if this is some being inside John Malkovich situation where you think you can just actually go into their head, but I don't think there's rules to this, and this is real life. If you're talking to Tyler Durden, you're talking to the narrator in real life. You can't be inside his head, and you can't go there, so it's not going to be as fun. And you're not even going to have that man crushes him because you're looking at Edward Norton, and he's an all right looking guy, but he's no Brad Pitt, so you're not even having that part. He's not rubbing off his charm on you, and he's being kind of weird and creepy, and it's not the same. And that's why he wants to be Tyler Durden, everything. So it's not even going to be fun. It's going to be weird. And like I said, he's going to try and recruit you into his terrorist plot. So beware of that. So I actually am feeling sorry for you, and you might want to hang out with Tyler Durden on the other side of the bars, and get safe.
I just feel like for your pick, Robert Downey Jr., Kirk Lazarus, I feel like you could have gone with so many more like great choices. And Tropic Thunder is a funny movie. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is great in it. That was like my first rated R movie I went and saw in theaters. My mom went and took me to it, and it was not good.
And time right there. We're gonna go time. Alrighty. So Henry, we're gonna start you off for closing. I think is that correct? Right?
Yes.
Yep. So we're gonna do Henry for closing. Make sure you sum everything up, get enough points in, and do what you got to do. Go ahead, Henry.
All right, so like I said, Kirk Lazarus, he's going to be inside his head. He's going to be over the top, but even he's self-aware because even in the earlier scenes in Tropic Thunder, when they finally realized that the bombs, or right after the director blew himself up, and Kirk Lazarus, Robert Downey Jr.'s character was like, "Hey man, this shit's real. He's fucking dead, man." Yeah, he's even though he's still in his character, he's able to be self-aware of real life and realize that they are in a movie, and you have Ben Stiller's character, who's the one who's caught up in his mind. So that's what it would be like for you with hanging out with the narrator and Tyler Durden, because he's not even going to know what's going on. And then you might have Marla show up and she's real confused and you don't know what's going on with that. So that just adds extra drama, and it's not going to be fun. It's going to be like a soap opera, and it's going to be, hanging out with Honey Boo Boo or the Kardashians. It's going to be like an E show. It's not going to be just fun guys hanging out, and it's not even going to be a learning process. So it's not even appealing.
All right, a strong closing there from Henry, and over to Drake, not Jake, Drake.
That's twice you said Jake.
I know that's the second time. I'm sorry, Drake.
You're fine, dude. You're fine. You keep knocking on Tyler Durden. It's just gonna be crazy and just no fun. But kind of is just kind of end with questions, or they're just really messed up. I think that's why I gravitated towards picking Tyler Durden for this question, just because it would just be fun to just ask him a bunch of questions and even get crazy. I mean, I don't obviously want to get acid on my hand or anything like that, but I just think sitting down talking to him, just watching his movie, that would be a fun time. And then your pick, I mean, it's a good performance, and you keep talking about a learning experience and all that. I don't know. I just feel like Tyler Durden's a more fun pick, and Kirk Lazarus is a more safe pick in this round. And you might have pinned me down a lot, but I don't know. I kind of just stretched out, tried to go for it.
Alrighty, you did go for it there on the closing.
Oh, I
that
tried.
Was well fought. Well fought for both of you. I think Henry had a very meta argument against Tyler Durden for sure. I think that was really interesting. I definitely think that Henry got more points in against Drake's pick. Drake, I think if you had you did attack him as like being a little bit too much of a safe pick, and you don't want it to be a learning experience. You did hit those in your closing, but I think I needed just a little bit more against Henry's pick in the main rounds. So I am going to go Henry again on this one. But once again, both of these choices are incredibly meta. One of them is a narrator of his own movie, and it's all happening in his head. And the other one is you're sitting next to an actor who is playing an actor the movie is about that actor playing an actor. It's meta choices, guys. This is weird as hell. But that was a fun match. That was a fun round.
I thought of that argument on the fly, like literally as soon as I think during your opening, and I was just like, all right, let's do this. And that was on the fly. So, I mean, I got lucky that I came up with that. So,
but Drake, you definitely did go for it there. It was good to just, you bit the bullet and you went for it, man. That was good.
Yeah. Henry crushed me that round. I'm going to be honest. That was awful.
All right.
Sorry,
well,
man.
You're not out yet. We do have one more main round question for you. One more main round question. This one is going to be very interesting here. Here we go. Question 4 of the main round. We're going to be asking you, what is the best movie of 2017? Now, there's a lot of options. There's at least 3 movies that have come out this year so far. But we're asking you, what's the best movie of 2017? And Drake, whenever you're ready, we're going to start with you for opening arguments.
All right. Best movie of 2017 was one of the first movies I
Can you, is your camera, can you throw your camera back on? Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No worries, man.
There we go.
Perfect. Good.
Nice. All right. Best movie of 2017 I picked was one of the first ones I saw, and that's Get Out. It's directed by Jordan Peele. This movie is just full of good performances to start out. There's so much symbolism in Get Out, and it's endlessly rewatchable. I mean, I've already seen it 4 times this year. It's awesome. And it has a really great blend of comedy and horror, which really go well together. And shows in this movie, and I think it had a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, so I know it's very high up there on Rotten Tomatoes. So yeah,
Sure thing. Definitely an extremely strong pick from Drake coming right out, and Henry, we're gonna knock it all over to you.
So when I think of best movie of anything, I think of something that is more well-rounded, and I'm going with The Big Sick because it is a drama, it is a romance movie, it is a comedy movie, it is a sad, not thrilling, but more, that suspense of what's going to happen with the character, and it gets you invested in the characters. It takes its time. You don't have the actual big sick part of it until about 45 minutes in, so almost halfway into the movie. So it takes its time. It builds up its characters. It makes you believe why Kumail Nanjiani's character is going to do what he does, and it gets to the point, to where you actually meet nice supporting characters. Everybody has their moment, and it's more a stronger movie. It's more well-rounded for all audiences. You can watch it anytime, and both movies have strong messages, but I think my movie has a stronger message because it appeals to more audience, and it doesn't hit you over the head with it.
All right, definitely an interesting perspective for both of you. Definitely, in my opinion, two of probably the top 5, top 10 movies of the year so far. Definitely two fantastic picks. So we're going to have 5 minutes of open forum starting now.
All right, so with Get Out, I actually think that, like you said, it has a social commentary, but I think it hits you over the head. It's kind of, I don't think it's going to hold up in the future, not because of the message, like the concept it covers is going to hold up, but I think the fact that it hit you over the head with it, and how it beats you over, where it's like, oh, here's the message. You have black people, they're the maids, and then they're the workers in the house. You have the black friend that goes missing. You have the black comedy friend, and it's too over the top with the characters, and it's not simple, and it's actually trying to be serious. Whereas my movie, it has Kumail's family, where it's the Indian family, and it's over the top with the religion and the Hindi and the arranged marriage concept, but it's more of like a satire. So it knows what it is, and it's actually poking fun at it in a respectful way. So if it wasn't, you would hear backlash for it. Whereas your movie, I think it plays it safe in the sense of like, this is a time in our life where, you have all the beatings with the police, and you have all the, the race wars and all that stuff. So it's kind of safe right now. And that's why I think it's so highly acclaimed, where in the future, I don't think it's going to hold up because it's so, it's too on the nose, and it's not very subtle.
Okay. I watched The Big Sick this summer, and I thought it was a good movie, but if we're talking about best movie 2017, I'd probably leave it right now in my top 10. I think it's a good romantic comedy that has some heart. The thing about Big Sick, and maybe this doesn't have any weight to the argument, but I found out like his wife, Kumail Nanjiani, the actual story isn't necessarily like they show it in the movie, and she said something like, you wouldn't want to see the actual story. And just hearing, I own The Big Sick, I can see it right now, but just hearing that just kind of dampens, if I ever put it in again, just will dampen kind of the movie for me. Get Out, talking about the social commentary and everything going on today. Just Jordan Peele coming right off the bat in his directorial debut blew me away. And there is a lot of symbolism. You're talking about hitting it over the head. That's what almost kind of makes the movie even better, because it's endlessly rewatchable. You can go back, you can see like when he gets out of the car, when they're pulled over by the cop, and he's looking at the deer. Then later in the movie, he kills Bradley Whitford and with a deer. Like, there's so much symbolism, and it's so over the top that you got to go back and just realize the different things that he's doing.
See, like I said, that's where it's on the nose, where it's proving, like, you with that scene, he sees the deer at the beginning, and the stuff with the mom, and it paints, it shows you, it tells you everything. It doesn't let the audience handle it for themselves. It kind of treats the audience like they're dumb. It doesn't really, it's so out there, because if you would have had that scene with the connection with the mom, when he hit the deer and he had to see it because of the car, it did a callback later on and had to kill him with the deer to kind of stand up like, oh dear, oh I now remember that scene, oh and then it's smart how it does it, but it's too on the nose, and it didn't trust the audience enough to figure it out on the own. It gave them too many clues. Whereas The Big Sick, like you said with that storyline, it was smart. It sometimes real life events. That's why most stories are based on true events, and they're not 100% depictions, because sometimes true events, you're not going to want to watch a movie that's a complete downer. It has a nice blend of comedy, but it's not afraid to go there with the sickness, with the girlfriend, and then you have amazing supporting characters in Ray Romano and Holly Hunter. Whereas yours, they have one or two scenes to shine, but in my movie you have all three characters standing. It's like a road trip movie when they're all in one place, because they're going from place to place, the house. Then they have the comedy club. She's not really the best fan of him at that point in the movie, and then she still stands up for him in the comedy because you have somebody being racist. So it has a social commentary there of, hey, how about you go back to ISIS? And it has a line, so obviously you hear it, but it doesn't hit you over the head with being racist. And then you have the jokes like when Kamel and his brother are at the batting cages, and then they say something really loud, and then the white people look at them like, oh, we hate terrorists. Like, it's just they're real quick with the lines. It doesn't hit you over the head with social commentary of, oh, be sensitive to Middle Eastern people, or like, hey, we're actually not as bad as you think. Like, it's more smart. They're being themselves. They're being Americans because that's what you want to be, but they also have the accents, they also have the culture, so it's not afraid to still be that culture. So it's not Americanizing, quote unquote, the people, because they're just being themselves. You have the arranged marriages.
Time there. Alrighty, everybody got
holy cow.
Yeah, that it goes by quick when you're just rambling, for sure. Not that you were rambling. I didn't mean to.
No, I'm just saying, that one quick.
Yeah. So, you guys have closing arguments. We're going to start with Drake. Make sure you guys both really sum up your points for your movie and against the other one in this closing. And go ahead, Drake.
All right. Reason why I think Get Out is better than The Big Sick. I think it will hold up a lot better than you're talking about, Henry, in like 10, 20 years. I would almost argue there's more comedy or more laughs in Get Out than there is in The Big Sick. And that could, even the Golden Globes, I know the Golden Globes are a joke, but they nominate it as a comedy because there's tons of elements of comedy in. And there's so many callbacks to like Rosemary's Baby and just a lot of different classic horror movies in Get Out that even Jordan Peele specifically said that he did that for. What makes Get Out a better movie, I think you can rewatch it more than The Big Sick, and each time you rewatch it, you get something new out of it each time. And even though there's a lot of symbolism, some people may not catch it the first time, and then you go back, and then you just, like you said, you piece it together. That's what's so good about Get Out, is you can rewatch it, piece it together, and then just watch it knowing everything. You can just watch his girlfriend the entire time, and it's a completely different performance. Get Out's a masterpiece by Jordan Peele. I can't wait to see what he does next.
Definitely very strong. Oh,
I want to knock down The Big Sick just a little bit. I just think The Big Sick is just it's a really good movie, but I think it's just another kind of romantic comedy that they kind of turn on its head because he's with the parents most of the time. And they got an advantage because it's based off like real life, but I don't know. I just think The Big Sick is a little bit above average, as where Get Out will be a classic in 10, 20 years.
All right, a great argument there. And Henry, go ahead for closing.
So with Get Out, you have a lead performance by Daniel Kaluuya and Ashley, whatever her name is. That's not
Allison Williams.
Yeah, Allison Williams. That's not on the movie. That's on me. But you have those two performances, and they're subtle. They're subtle, but the rest of the movie is over the top as far as hitting you on the nose. You have the brother, he's being the asshole brother, the cliche asshole brother. You have the parents being over the top with the my man stuff, and I would have voted for Obama for a third term if I could, pandering. So you have that, and they're not as interesting. They're not subtle, and you're really trying to seduce the character to be a part of the family and to join your cult, in a sense, when you get down to the nitty gritty and when you get down to the the spoiler of the movie and what happens. And then you have the friend Rod. When you have him, he's so over the top, and yeah, he's funny, but it doesn't mesh, like the tone, like it's not like a relief comedy. It's kind of just out of nowhere comedy, and it kind of ruins the tone and takes you out of the movie for a second, because you might laugh, but it's not a relief because it doesn't blend with what the scene that happened prior. It doesn't like give you a second to like really draw, sink in what happened. And where you have The Big Sick, you have lead performance by Kumail Nanjiani, who's not the greatest actor, but he was able to be his real life person and tell his story. So he was able to be himself, and it was really good. And then you have Zoe Kazan. They had the balls to take her out of the movie for over almost half the movie because of the sickness. But they built her character up very well in the first 45 minutes, and the writing and the performance was so great that you actually cared and you actually believed that Kumail would actually do that and stick around, and it gave heart to him. And then you have the parents, and you don't like them at first, and then you have the side story of the cheating with Ray Romano's character, and you kind of understand the tension between them, which on rewatch you would notice that how it's more subtle, and it's on that storyline's more like a twist because it comes at the end and then you rewatch and it builds up. Whereas your movie, all the quote unquote twists, they hit you over the head with them. So it's not as subtle. And I think that's where the writing falls apart. And that's unfortunately where Jordan Peele kind of struggled being a new director, and it kind of shows. And then down the line, that'll actually see that once the social commentary aspect of the movie kind of settles down, that the movie itself doesn't hold up, and it is more, like you said, like the Rosemary's Baby and all that stuff. It's a rehash of that type of story. Whereas The Big Sick, given that it's a true story, it's original, and because, like you said, it turned the romantic comedy concept on its head, and he was with the parents more often. It's not a rehash of most romantic comedies, so it's more original. It is very funny throughout. Nonstop throughout, but it also blends the tone. Whereas your movie, it kind of doesn't have a tone. It's not scary. It's not thrilling. It maybe has one or two funny scenes, and for the most part, it's a drama. And that's not what the movie was supposed to be, because that's kind of where he was weak in directing. So unfortunately, the tone of the movie is not as good, and it hits you over the head with its themes. Whereas The Big Sick, subtle. It has nice drama and comedy all spread out throughout from front to end. So I think it's more overall a better movie.
Alrighty, a strong closing there, and I gotta wrap it up here. That was definitely the closest, in my opinion. That was the closest to the four, for sure. I think this was definitely a hard fight. While I don't agree with him, I think I have to go with Henry again on this one. I definitely don't agree that Get Out hits you over the head. I don't think it does, but I didn't hear Drake contest that point. I think I needed to hear something in the main round of Drake saying, no, it is really subversive. It is hiding a social commentary. It is subversing the genre. I think I needed to hear more of that from Drake during the main round. I think I needed to hear him contest Henry's points. And I did like what Drake was saying about it, as, oh, it's just another rom-com. It's being turned on its head. But I think I needed to hear Drake counteract the points that Henry was making more. So with that, I'm going to give the 4-0 with the knockout to Henry on this one. Honestly, extremely well fought by both of you. Drake, I really hope we see you back here soon again. I'll give you the opportunity really quick. Drake, where can we find you online?
At Froemsdorf on Twitter, and losing to Henry sometime soon again.
All right. Honestly, well fought, Drake. This last round was definitely incredibly close. Henry, where can we find you?
Dial In for Movies on my own personal channel. With this, I don't know if this will be up there yet, but the Worldwide Movie Games Network on YouTube, we just started a new channel merging Movie Battleground. There will be trivia and Full Metal trivia, so it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of material for everybody. And there will be trivia Facebook page. Go ahead and join that, or the Worldwide Movie Games Facebook page now, actually, so you can actually get news from all the different shows.
All right, awesome. And I'm Robert Parker. I've been your host today. You can find me on Twitter and Letterboxd at RBRT, PRKR98. That's my first and last name with no vowels and the year. You can follow me on everything over there. You can check me out doing some stuff over on Worldwide Movie Games. And, of course, please make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to all of these amazing channels, all these amazing people, to this video, to the Worldwide Movie Games channel where Movie Battleground will be housed in the very near future. So on behalf of all the Movie Battleground admins, including myself, I want to thank you guys so much for competing today. Honestly, this was a pleasure to watch, and I want to thank all of you guys for watching the video. Thanks for checking it out. It really means a lot to us. So make sure you like, comment, and I'll see you next time. Thank you guys. Bye.